for joining the video today. Today I thought I would talk about something that's been going on in my brain, comparing our biological imperatives with eradicating what I'm calling the sinister out of our hearts. And the sinister would be another word for self-hate. So let's talk a second about what is our biological imperative. First is to survive, and the next one is to procreate. And in today's society, we have a lot of women who say, I don't want kids, I'm never gonna have kids. And that, it means that they're disconnected from their biological imperative. Now, of course, some women are unable to give birth. We're putting those women aside. In general, women are able to get pregnant and give birth, and that is fulfilling. So when women start talking about how they're not interested in kids, they don't like kids, they never want to have kids, they're only interested in doing things for themselves and sleeping in all day and going to concerts and all the videos we see on TikTok. Those women are in large part disconnected from their inherent biology. You know, when we're not connected to our biology, it makes it very difficult to be fulfilled and happy in life. And that is why women, the demographic that has the largest rate of anxiety and depression is 42-year-old career women who never had a family and children. So in today's video, I'm gonna get more into how we can align more with our biological imperative, and that will help us have more self-love in our hearts and help us lead a more fulfilling life, and then model that for the people around us. So thank you for joining. Please subscribe to my channel, and there'll be a bunch of topics today. We'll talk about what I call soul logic, and then we'll talk about my process about appreciate, learn, forgive. We'll also discuss some changes in your vocabulary that can help you focus on aligning with yourself and as opposed to being out of alignment with yourself, which we call the sinister in your heart. So I will jump into the first topic called soul logic. Thanks. So the first topic under soul logic is how we are souls having a human experience. So how does that work? So from this perspective, we have multiple lifetimes. And how do we have multiple lifetimes? What exists between the bodies and within the bodies in those lifetimes is something we call a soul. And quantum physics has proven that we all have energy bodies, and all those energy bodies communicate. And that's the same thing as saying we all have a soul, because soul is energy of love, and all of those souls are constantly communicating to orchestrate our lives for us. So what happens is in between lifetimes, our souls don't have a body, and then our souls plan our next lifetime and take on a body that can help us learn the lessons that we need to learn in that lifetime. And so I have this body, but my soul is about 2 to 3 feet out as an energy body outside of my physical body. And so you see people do aura readings and they'll see different colors in the soul, and our soul's colors change depending on how much self-hate we have and how much self-love we have inside of our soul. So we talk about, our frequencies vibrating higher, and that the denser energies like guilt, shame, judgment, self-hate, those are much denser vibrating energies, and those bring you down and you feel anxious and depressed and you don't want to get out of bed. Well, the more you love yourself and change the constitution of your soul and go more towards self-love versus self-hate, the higher vibrating that you'll get. And so when I reached the enlightenment frequency a month ago, I was vibrating so high that I lost 12 pounds in 3 days just sitting in my chair. So it's very difficult for someone to go from, a lot of self-hate and a lot of addictive behaviors direct to self-love, because our hearts, we could have a heart attack. It takes time to change that frequency and slowly adjust your physical body up to a level that can tolerate the frequency of love at a more consistent level. So when your soul decided to have this lifetime, it decided to create a scenario for you that would meet the needs of your soul based upon the plan you have. And whether people want to agree with it or not, we're all on our path to enlightenment, becoming the best version of ourselves, slowly unveiling ourselves. So when we say find yourself, What are you finding? Well, when you have trauma and emotional pain, a lot of layers of self-hate that you have to move through and eradicate. And that's the sinister. It's in our hearts. So what is enlightenment? Enlightenment is the unveiling of your true nature, of your soul's purpose, of the song in your heart that's waiting to be sung. So enlightenment is not something that you obtain by going outside of yourself. Enlightenment is something that you unveil after you release all of the emotional trauma and self-hate inside of your soul. And so when I had my experience about a month ago, I had my epiphany that God is dual, that it's both feminine and masculine. The feminine creates, the masculine orchestrates. And I was also able to release all of my fears, and all of the fears that I had left over were around my maternal pain, that I had missed something with my children. My children, they're part of me. Microchimerism shows that children's cells are left in the mother, and the mother leaves cells in their children. So I'm like 4 people. So when I have emotional stress, I'm feeling that and helping my children also process their emotional pain. So for me to unveil my true self, I had to release all of the pain around me and my children to unveil my true nature and let the song in my heart sing. And so it seems like my main soul's purpose is to help address sexual promiscuity in society, and how that's destroying society and ruining relationships and ruining women's ability to pair bond in healthy ways and such. And so that's why I've attracted multiple men who, I say, exercise their options with a lot of women. And those women, will never get a long-term relationship. They'll get sex, but never a long-term relationship, which is what women need to be fulfilled, and men need to be fulfilled as well. So that is what enlightenment is, and unveiling your true self, so that the song in your heart, your soul's purpose, can communicate with all the other souls through the collective consciousness, and we can all help each other become the best versions of ourselves, because that's why we're here. We're not here to hate on each other, but it feels like it, I know. And I had to learn those lessons really hard. Like, our families are the ones that love us the most, the ones that hold space for us the most, and the ones that we take our crap out on the most. But we trust those souls to stay in our lives so that we can have someone who can give us feedback, who can draw boundaries with us. We can practice draw boundaries with them as well. And in today's society, people just leave their families left, right, and center. Oh, well, I don't like my mom. In spite of her, I'm doing well. Or, my grandpa was terrible. Or, F the ancestors, they weren't there for me. And all of this individualism. Well, individualism is not part of our biological imperative. We are communal beings. Humans are communal beings, meant to live in families, in extended families. And I think something that we're not recognizing, by not recognizing who we are as beings and in what we need at a fundamental biological level, is we tear apart the family and think that that's going to be okay because I'm just an individual. Well, that's a lie we're telling ourselves, and that lie puts sinister and self-hate in our heart, because we're hating on the most important people in our lives, which is our family and our ancestors, which in today's society we have pretty much zero respect for. So many people, I left my family, I don't see my grandparents. Grandparents have needs. Like, I only recently realized that, when the mother and child pair bond, the grandma gets a bond too, as like backup. So when you take the grandchildren away from the grandparents needs aren't being met, and so then they look for those needs in unhealthy ways, and by destroying the family, we're destroying ourselves. And that's a whole other topic, but I just think, start thinking about how we can reconnect more to our family and our grandparents and our ancestors, so that we have gratitude for all that they gave so that we could have. I mean, my maternal line, so much trauma. My mom, my grandma gave up her first child and talked to her every day and never even told her, oh, you're my daughter. She found out after my grandma died. My grandma died in her 80s. Can you imagine that? As a daughter talking to your mother and not knowing it, or as a mother talking to your daughter and you can't say it. Such a fundamental bond, and it can't even be spoken of because she got pregnant outside of wedlock and they didn't get married for whatever reason. But all of that pain was transferred to my mom, who was engaged 4 times. Now that's not normal. Why would she need to be engaged 4 times? You know, if my grandma had already had a baby, and you know, in like the 30s, 1930s, what kind of man can she attract when she's already given birth then? So was my grandpa the highest caliber man with stellar integrity? No, because she didn't have stellar integrity. So if both parents didn't have integrity, you can imagine the abuse that went on that side of that household. Made my mom an alcoholic. And so then I ended up with the father who was, you know, abusive. My mom was abusive. And then I had to figure all of that out. And I had the opportunity to figure all that out, release all that pain, heal that maternal line so that my daughters now have an opportunity for a healthy relationship and healthy kids. You know, but I wouldn't have had the opportunity to heal all that if they hadn't gone through all of that pain and challenge and unhappiness and self-hate and, you know, sinister in their hearts. They didn't meet their biological imperatives in a lot of ways because they were so dysfunctional. And my grandpa passed away in his early 60s because he had early onset Alzheimer's. That begs the question, what did he want to forget? You know, about his childhood, why would marry a woman who'd already given birth? I mean, that wasn't, you wanted virgins back in the 1930s, and then you could demand it because that was the common culture. But my grandma, you know, she didn't wait for marriage. So I just think we all have a lot to think about when it comes to gratitude for our lives, for our parents' lives, for our ancestors' lives. And, you know, East Asian culture got that figured out a long time ago. And I think Western culture really needs to re-examine the place and the importance that we put on our parents and what they gave, and our grandparents and our great-grandparents. Because I think we're failing to acknowledge a lot of effort and time that went in to make it possible for us to have what we have today. So I encourage everybody to start a gratitude practice for their family and for their ancestors. So how do our souls orchestrate our lives? And I always say, well, my soul has a plan. My soul has a plan. So what is that plan? That plan is to help me unveil my heart, unveil my soul's purpose, take away all the emotional pain, and to give myself an opportunity to achieve enlightenment, which enlightenment is when your soul experiences all love and all of your fears and self-hate are eradicated. So how did my soul do that this lifetime? So in this lifetime, I didn't know it, but my soul had a plan for me to experience what I'm calling the enlightenment frequency, to experience enlightenment. And so how did my soul do that in this lifetime? And let's use physics. So if you see 2 balls rolling and one's rolling on a straight line and it's the same distance and one's going up and down, which one do you think gets there faster? The one that goes up and down, because you have more momentum. The one that goes a straight line will get there slower because not as much momentum. But if you learn how to surf the waves of life, and then you start surfing bigger and bigger waves. So what I realize is that I have to be able to swing into the darkness and then swing back into the light. And that is how I got up to I call the enlightenment frequency, the frequency of full love. So in the lifetime that you're going to reach it, you know, it's different for everybody. I mean, I didn't know my soul had a plan for this lifetime. I just kept listening to myself and following my intuition, and I had that experience. But it's a lifetime, it's multiple lifetimes to build up to that experience. And so when I say my soul has a plan, It's over many, many lifetimes to reach that frequency. And just because I reached it once, I come back down and I can reach it again and have another epiphany and another, in another lifetime. So I ran into a young man who was my son in a past life, and he had experienced enlightenment in the past life, came back and was really struggling because he had that experience, and then he's like back down in the depths of emotional pain and self-hate and challenge, and then he's like, oh shoot, let me get back up there. But that's not easy to get back up there. I mean, I had to take on many very difficult lessons in life, including a very traumatic childhood, a traumatic marriage, my children's traumatic childhood, and we're all better now. But inside of all that emotional pain that I accumulated are lessons about loving and valuing ourselves. So our soul decides what experiences to give us opportunities to self-reflect and see where we can love on ourselves more as opposed to hating on ourselves more. So an example is, a lot of women say this, well, I only can date narcissists, just not narcissists, but it's all their fault. And the problem is when you hear someone say, well, every man I date's a narcissist. Okay, but you're the common denominator. So what are you doing to attract that into your life? And the only way to stop attracting that into your life is to heal the emotional pain. So one example I use is, it's like we're playing a video game. And say, for me, level 14 is a narcissist level. Like, I gotta learn how not to overgive, how to stand up for myself, how to take care of myself first, how to love myself first, how to communicate my needs as a woman, so that I don't get in another relationship with a narcissist who has his own problems. So it's not that narcissist is the problem. That narcissist is giving me opportunities to love on myself more, draw boundaries with myself and other people in healthier ways. So it's an opportunity, not like a sentence or a punishment. And if people looked at relationships as opportunities to become the best version of yourself, then we'd all be doing better. I talk to my daughters about this all the time. Like, oh, guess you got an opportunity to draw a boundary. Oh, guess you got an opportunity to love yourself more. Oh, I guess you got an opportunity to articulate your needs to that person. I guess you got an opportunity to tell that person they're not allowed to talk to anymore. So instead of saying, well, I have to, or it's forced upon me, it's an opportunity to become a better version of yourself, to show up for yourself more, to love yourself more. And then more importantly, also really important is to model that for the people in your lives and for the people in society. So, I wasn't modeled how to love myself. So I'm learning now. I wasn't modeled how to eat healthy. I'm still learning now. I'm 53 years old, trying to teach my daughters how to eat healthy. I mean, we have all this technology, but we can't eat healthy? And I'm wondering what the problem is. So, I would just say, in general, our souls orchestrate our lives, and a lot of people are focused way out there about everything that's going on out there. And I'm trying to get everybody to do a huge redirect back to self, because our hearts and what's in our hearts is what orchestrates our reality. So I could sit here all day long, oh, I deserve a guy like this, and 6 feet tall, 6 figures, 6 inches, whatever you want to do it. But that's what my head thinks, not what my heart thinks. Maybe the man for me is 5'7" and, isn't large, and then that's what I need. Maybe what I need is $10 million. Maybe what I need is to live in my car. I don't know, but my heart knows and my soul knows. And only when we trust ourselves, trust our hearts and our soul to bring in what we need to become the best version of ourselves, then that kind of self-trust is very peaceful. So I got laid off several months ago, but I know my soul has a plan, and I've been on a roller coaster since, but my soul has a plan, and I'm going to trust that plan. And my soul has never left me homeless, and it's never left me without money. So I trust my soul to create a reality for myself where I have opportunities to sing my soul's purpose. and be the best version of myself and model that for society. So trust yourself. If you keep attracting a similar kind of person in your life, self-reflect. And I'll go over that a little bit later in this video, but that's what's really happening. If you keep repeating patterns in your life, those kind of synchronicities, that's soul logic. Synchronicities, whether you think they're negative or positive, that's soul logic. It's like, okay, you're stuck at this level. You need to learn your lessons from this level so you can move up to the next level, and then the next level, and the next level. And then you keep moving up levels until you hit the enlightenment frequency, have your own epiphany, release your fears, and then you keep going. Like, I don't know, it could happen again. I have no idea. I'm grateful for the opportunity to learn and experience that and then share that this is possible in life. So, thanks. So the next topic in soul logic is how souls communicate through synchronicities. So one thing that I see often online is hurt people hurt people. So, you imagine the guy in Starbucks screaming about how blueberry muffin wasn't heated up properly. Well, that guy came in with that pain and then projected that pain onto the barista and then tried to hold her responsible for it, which is kind of how I define mental illness is, and people are really unaware that we're all creating our own reality. And so that guy with that hate in his heart projects it and then tries to hold someone responsible for his own self-hate. That is mental illness 101. And the same thing happens like when I talked about narcissists, when women say, oh, well, I keep dating narcissists, as if the narcissist is the problem. No, the narcissists repeatedly show up in your life. That synchronicity is your soul communicating with you saying, this is your issue right now. This is your lesson right now. Until you learn this lesson, we're not going to present you with a different lesson. It's like trying to graduate kindergarten when you don't know your ABCs. So no one's going to move you up to first grade until you learn your ABCs. And this is how soul's lessons work. Like, I used to attract narcissists into my life. I would say that I'm still struggling with that, as I typically attract men who exercise their options and believe they have a right to do so, no matter what relationship they're in. And that, for me, is not okay. But I'm still working on myself, and so I'm trying to, I'm still moving up my lessons too. So synchronicities. I'll give an example of a huge synchronicity with my mom, and I really had to learn this lesson. Our souls choose the day we're born and the day we die very carefully, because they always mean something. So with my mom, I had my birthday in common, and then she died on my birthday when I was 45. And she came through and told me that she chose that day because I was the most special person in her life. So she wanted to celebrate one more time with me. So if you have people in your life that died on different days, think about why they would choose that as a positive thing and be grateful for that. And as opposed to, and it could be very painful. So, they must have hated me and they don't like me. Our soul's energy is love. So the chance that they chose a day to punish, it's just, love isn't punishing, okay? The ego punishes. Self-hate punishes. That's the sinister in the heart, is the punishment. Forgiveness is the way. Want to heal? Love is healing. Why do kids run to their mom when they get hurt? Mom! Because mom is love. And so mom's going to love you, and then you're going to feel better. And it's the love that heals. It's not the punishment. So another way, like synchronicities, is when you like someone and then your souls are aligning, and so you just run into them different places, and that's your soul's kind of giving you a cue. Oh, keep going with that one, keep going with that one, keep going with that one. It's like a hint. Or you see the angel numbers 1111 when at an important time. You look up, you're like, oh, should I do this? And then you see the angel number. Oh, okay. Or 4444 is a committed relationship. You're thinking about someone you're dating. Oh, should I commit with them? Then you see those numbers. That's your soul saying, okay, keep going. Keep trying with this one. Doesn't mean it's the end all or not the end all person, but keep going, keep trying, and see what you figure out and see what you learn. So pay attention to those like synchronicities. And especially in terms of the kind of people you're attracting into your life, the kind of jobs you're attracting into your life, because if you're experiencing a lot of negativity, that means you have a lot of negativity in your heart, and so your soul is kind of synchronizing you with your external world, because we all create our own reality through our heart space. And and those synchronicities are how you have options to learn. Like after I had the enlightenment experience, I had lost 12 pounds. My family was really concerned about me. Mom, you're having a manic episode. Mom, should you be committed? And they couldn't hear a word that I was saying because they were so convinced inside their own self-assessment, because they all have mental illness challenges, that I should be committed. And so I'm explaining to them what is really happening right now. It's like, you guys, you have pain in your heart, you're projecting it onto me and your fears onto me, and then trying to hold me responsible. Like my one daughter, well, Mom, you didn't eat the snacks I bought you. I'm like, so not eating snacks means I should be committed? But she couldn't hear me because she was so busy being right because of her fears about me needing extra help. She couldn't hear me that, okay, I didn't eat for 3 days. Fine. I lost 12 pounds. Fine. I ate today. I went to the doctor. Doctor sent me home. Everything's fine. But because her fear in her heart, and she was projecting it onto me and trying to hold me responsible for her fears, that is mental illness, and that's how we hurt people. That's how we damage relationships, is when we don't understand that what we're seeing in reality is a projection of our own heart, so that we're all technically in our own reality, and that's why we need to hold space for each other. So, I heard, once one of my children say, well, she's been in therapy for years and I didn't take that long. I said, I don't care that you didn't take that long. That's your soul's journey, what you needed, and she's different. Why is how long it took you any indication of how long it's going to take her? The lessons she has to learn are different lessons you have to learn. Why don't you focus on yourself and your own lessons and support her in learning her lessons, and vice versa, as opposed to having all these arguments over who's getting mentally healthy faster. Every person comes in at a different time to learn different lessons. Like the last child in a family that has a lot of dysfunctional behavior and a lot of mental illness is going to get attended to a lot less than the first child. Like my son has mild autism. He got a lot of attention. Second child, she's very independent. Third child didn't get as much attention as she needed. And then she had challenges because of that. But her soul chose that because those are the lessons she needs to become the best version of herself. And it has nothing to do with my other children's lessons. And so I really think one thing we can all focus on is hold space. Hold space. Stop controlling each other. Hold space. Support each other in what we're doing, and the lessons we need to learn. So, okay. So what is our biological imperative? I'm going to focus on two things: survival and reproduction. So if we can't survive, we can't reproduce. So I'm going to get to the second one because that's really where my soul's purpose is. And there's a reason I've attracted so many men who exercise their options into my personal life. And all these men are top tier masculine men who a lot of women would want. I mean, the first one, chess champion, multimillionaire. Second one, Justin Waller and his best friend Andrew Tate. Third one, decorated firefighter, 6'4", good looking, 40 years old, like incredible. And the last one, a retired fire captain, 6'7", okay, and also decorated. And why did I need those lessons into my life? And what the main lesson is about when men like that make themselves available sexually to women, women are throwing themselves at them to have an opportunity for a relationship with them. But what a lot of women don't realize is those men will sleep with a lot of women, will sleep with women they'll never have a relationship with. But women in general only sleep with men who they would have a relationship with, and a lot of women don't understand this about themselves. And they don't understand the pair bonding. So men, you put your arms over your head, make love. That's one way to get a pair bond out of the woman, and then the woman obsesses over the man. So, if you're a player, it behooves you to have these women obsessing over you and not sleeping with anybody else, and they're just taking the pair bonds left, right, and center. But what happens when you take pair bonds from women, it makes it very difficult for them to pair bond with a lesser man, because women are hypergamous. Like, we're always moving up. So for me, the most recent guy is the most alpha for me than the first guy. And so for me to have a pair bond with another guy, I would need someone more alpha than that. You know, he's 6'7". Like, you know, like, I'm fucked at this point, I think. Like, I don't know how I get someone higher than that, but it's just, I'll trust my soul that you know, something else is going to happen for me. So, but when these men go out there and they have sex with and take their pair bonds, and then these women who could never secure a relationship with these kind of guys, they're kind of left wandering the rest of their lives. They'll never be able to have a healthy relationship with a man at their level. Because now they've experienced a man way above their level. They think, okay, well, that's where I'm at, so I'm there or higher. And then women who aren't pair bonded with the husband don't bond well with the kids. And these are the women, all the cheating and the open relationships that's going on right now, and the children are being neglected. And so, while yes, women are spreading their legs to these men, but these men are also leaders in society and should be held accountable and responsible for their behavior. They're the ones that need to be the most chivalrous, to be the best model, especially firefighters. Last two are firefighters. You know, they're the heroes in society, and yet sexual promiscuity and sex addiction, from my perspective, you know, is a problem within the fire department. And granted, you know, their mental health status is evidenced by their astronomical suicide rate, and so they're inundated too. So when we think about the biological imperative and the sexual promiscuity that's going on in society, we're 20 years from population collapse. So I'd encourage everyone to kind of rethink sexual promiscuity. I mean, sex is to create babies. When did our bodies stop being a temple? And women stop having the ability to pair bond after about 4 or 5 pair bonds. I think that's about what women get. I think men get 2. And so women are the vulnerable ones. So I could be raped, or I could have incest and still have an opportunity to pair bond, but that person needs to be at like a higher level. You know, I have to keep going up. Women are hypergamous. We go up. And that hypergamy pushes men to accomplish and achieve and compete. So I started thinking about that. And when women get disconnected from their biological imperative, we hear them talking about, oh, well, I don't want kids. I'm a dink, I just have 2 incomes. And if you think about life, it's a natural progression. You're a child, you learn to love yourself. And then you become an adult, you learn to love somebody else. And then you get married, you learn to love kids. And you grow from there. And all of that meets your biological imperative. It meets needs as a human. Our biological imperative are our needs. Like, I'm very maternal. I had a need to have kids because I'm a woman. And to have population growth, we need about 90% of women having kids and about 40% of men. That's what's happened historically, and we had population growth. And if we don't have population growth, we're not going to have economic growth. Those two go together. So how do we have population growth? Is we have to keep the woman pure and humble and healthy, and the men are responsible for that. You know, if women create and the men orchestrate, men are orchestrating a very sexually promiscuous culture for us, and women are, of course, going along with it. Women start closing their legs and opening their hearts, then you can attract in a man and for a relationship. But opening your legs is not generally how you'll get a healthy man to commit to you. So let's keep thinking about how we can get more in contact and connection with our biological imperative to start turning things around, because 20 years from population collapse is not a reality I'd like for my grandchildren. So, please consider those options. So in this section, I'll talk about appreciate, learn, forgive that you see up top. And that is my process for going through challenges in life, and it takes us out of the victim mindset, which is not soul logic. Claiming to be a victim in your life does not acknowledge the reality that our souls orchestrate our lives for us to give us opportunities to heal, learn, and grow and become the best version of ourselves. And my lessons were quite difficult, but other people's lessons aren't as difficult, and that's fine, because the lessons I need to expand my consciousness are specific to me and not anybody else. So I need other people just to hold space for me while I go through my lessons. And that means that they will take on some emotional pain, but I take on emotional pain too for other people. And that's how we support each other in learning our lessons. So why do we start with gratitude or appreciation? First, when we feel gratitude, that balances out our hormones and it opens our heart. So, and then we acknowledge our soul's efforts in creating this life for ourselves. Like my life, a lot of lessons through emotional pain, a lot of maternal pain, and I need to communicate that maternal pain so that I can hope to create a better reality for my children and my grandchildren, you know, after I'm gone, which is the purpose. Is you want better for your kids than you had. You want better for your grandchildren than you had. And so I'm fighting for that with these videos and through my healing work. So starting with gratitude puts you in hormonal balance, and it opens you, and it gives us a huge redirect back to self, saying thank you, soul, for creating this challenge for me so that I can learn more about myself. I can learn more about how to love and value myself more, trust myself more, and open my heart more, and take one step closer to achieving enlightenment and unveiling my true soul's purpose. So the next step is learning your lessons, and that is the hard one. So once you've opened and with gratitude, then how do you do that? And the process I use, I call like sequence of events. And here's the story that I normally tell is, if you look at the sequence of events in your life, as opposed to individual moments and deciding if they're right or wrong, then you take a kind of step back and say, okay, I trust myself. I trust my soul has a plan. Where can I improve, and where can I, do better? And life is more complicated than right or wrong. And here's the example I use. So imagine there's two teenage boys. They're dealing drugs. One kills the other with gunfight, and one goes to jail and one dies. Both families are destroyed. And you think, okay, that's just wrong. It's just punish bad. Well, there's part of the story that only one person knew about. There's a 12-year-old boy in a bush watching the whole thing, learning how not to get killed. And that 12-year-old boy goes on to become a doctor and creates a cure for cancer and saves thousands of lives. So, was it right or wrong that the two teenage boys got in the gunfight? Or was that necessary to help the collective, do better and save more lives? So if you recognize and acknowledge that all of our souls are communicating constantly, creating opportunities to heal, learn, and grow, that it's more than just the two, it's everyone involved and beyond. So if you start looking, taking a step back and not judge yourself that, oh, was I right or was I wrong? Okay, well, I'm human. I make some mistakes. Where did I do well, and where can I do better? And that kind of self-reflection process will help you kind of eradicate the sinister or the self-hate in your heart. And so you have more self-love in your heart. So, in that scenario, when we think about, right and wrong, so here's some questions that I usually use, like for myself. Why was it necessary for me to attempt suicide? What did I learn from that? How can I grow from that? Where can I do better? How can I improve? So none of those questions are self-judgment or self-hate. Not, oh, I'm such an idiot. Why did I do that? Oh, I'm so bad. That's not helpful. I mean, it's helpful to get more self-hate in your heart if that's your goal, which you're free to do. But if you want to eradicate what I call the sinister or the self-hate, then those kinds of questions, well, why was that necessary for my youngest daughter to get an eating disorder? What can I learn from that? Where can I grow from that? How can I improve that relationship? What more can I do in that relationship? Like one thing I talk about is, if you have a problem relationship, create a gratitude book. Put a picture in there every week, spend an hour every week, put a picture, both of you write great things about each other, and you have a place to celebrate and appreciate the relationship. And then you can always come back to that when you're having problems. So, ask yourself questions like, has self-hate been on my side through thick and thin? Oh, yeah, okay, well then that's your problem. You're leaning on self-hate as opposed to self-love to get through life, and that's leaning on addictions. And I did that. I ate bad food. I had a bit of a shopping addiction, and I, eradicated that from my heart, that kind of sinister from my heart, because it's just self-destruction. Running up credit card bills like so many women do, doesn't behoove me. but I didn't know how to stop until recently. So I just encourage you to take the time to self-reflect. It's always good. You can write in your journal, you can walk barefoot in nature, go swimming, do exercise, whatever you do to get in your heart space. And the way women do it is different than the way men do it. Women need to go through all their emotions to be able to see clearly. Men need to detach from their emotions to see clearly. So if you think, well, my husband does it this way, my husband goes for a bike ride. Okay, well, that might not be how the woman needs to do it. So just take your own approach, but the feminine way is usually the opposite of the masculine way. It's a reason that men have a cave and women want to talk to their friends all the time. Women, we're the relationship people. We're the ones that focus on relationships. Relationships are important to us. Where men focusing on how to build a society to keep us safe and in the structure, like all of the grid, the roads and the power grids and all of that is masculinity. So just it's okay to be different and embrace the differences in going through that process. And the last step is forgiveness. So when you learn your lessons, you kind of learn a lesson about how you can love and value yourself, then you kind of naturally release that pain. But I add in forgiveness because that really is that step. And forgiveness is really for the person doing the forgiving. Because I don't have control over my dad or my mom or my brother, all the challenging relationships I don't have control over them. But where I have influence is for my own heart space. So if I can forgive them, my own heart, and release that, then that forgiveness is waiting out there for them energetically when they're ready to receive it. If they're ever ready to receive it, and they might not be, and that's okay. But if I have less pain in my heart, then I'm less likely to go into Starbucks and yell at the barista over a improperly heated blueberry muffin, which, that kind of stuff happens all the time. So that's one way you can contribute to society more, is by forgiving the people in your life who have treated you in hurtful ways. But also acknowledge that your soul worked with their souls to attract that into your life to learn that lesson. If you want to read a book on that, is The Little Soul in the Sun by Neil Donald Walsh. He also has a larger book called The Conversations with God. It gets into that phenomenon. So one huge helpful way that I use to, when I say eradicate the sinister out of my heart, the self-hate out of my heart, is to change up my vocabulary. And words are spells. That's why we call it spelling. So here's an example. A lot of women and men call women bitches. Okay? And I really first experienced this a couple years ago. I was out with my older daughter and my friend at the time. And my older daughter, she's like 21, says, "This bitch?" I was like, "What? What do you mean, this bitch?" And if women are referring to each other as bitches, then how can we expect that we're going to respect each other, that we're going to support each other? And then that allows men to call us bitches. Like, I'm not a bitch. Like, I stand up for myself, but I am not a bitch. I'm a lady. I haven't been on a date in 5 years. I haven't been with a man in 5 years, even though all these men have come through my life. I'm a lady. I am humble and modest, and I don't make decisions. I don't chase. I don't do that. So, but that took a lot of learning for me not to chase and not to do that, because that's not how to get a man, is to chase him. So I really encourage women and men to start saying "this lady" as opposed to "this bitch." So, and then I'm going to get into this and that. So someone says "this bitch," that means they're in the heart space. Okay, that bitch, that's ego. That's outside the heart space. That bitch deserves. And that kind of talking is what leads to abusing women, rape, hurting women, hitting women, and women can do that to men too. Well, that asshole deserves. And then you're predicting punishment, okay? So I really encourage you to think thoroughly through the language that you're using to talk about yourself and others, because what my brain thinks another person deserves has nothing to do with what my soul's orchestrating. It has everything to do with my ego and me thinking that I'm better than that person and that I can decide what that person deserves. I'm not a judge or jury. I'm not. Like people, oh, how can you have compassion for Andrew Tate? I'm not a judge or jury for that man. My job as a woman was to show him compassion, and I did my job. It doesn't mean that he's guilty or not guilty. It has nothing to do with me. It's not my job. So I would encourage people to stop making it their job to decide what other people deserve. She deserves to get fucked. What? Like, because you're logical, your emotional pain, you're projecting it onto her and then holding her responsible for your own sex addiction? No. That is not how this works. That's a sinister in your heart. So that's one way to change your language, your vocabulary. So changing deserve with need, okay? Because I can say, well, he deserves and I deserve a 6 foot tall man who makes millions of dollars and has a big dick. I could say I deserve that all day long. But it has nothing to do with what I need in my heart. I need a man who treats me with respect, who shows up for me, who listens to me, who values me, who understands that I'm a vulnerable woman and that him, coming into my life should see me as such, and not just like an equal or someone to fuck once in a while. I'm a grown woman with children, who is, I don't tolerate that. So thinking about what other people think I deserve or they deserve, that's sinister ego all day long. And how I change it in myself is talking about what I need in my heart. Like, I attract men into my life who exercise their options, but I need monogamy. I need a man who will commit to me, because it hurts me when men in my life that I care for are sleeping with other women and not spending time with me, because I don't tolerate multiple women in my life. I have a need. So whether they think they deserve multiple or not has nothing to do with my need. Like, you want to come into my personal life? I have a need for monogamy. You don't want monogamy? Then I don't need you in my life. And that is how clear I had to get on my own boundaries around my heart, because all these men exercising an option, I'm like, are there any other men? I had to think, right, that I can attract into my life, because they're all want to just exercise options. Like, okay, go do that, but that doesn't work for me. So I had to get really strong. Those were my opportunities to really see myself and get strong within myself. What does my heart need? My heart needs monogamy. My heart needs commitment. I need to be provided for and protected, and not just be one of many. And something that, and through that exploration, I was able to understand what these men are failing to understand is that, if I were to ask one of them, well, okay, you're going to provide 80% for me, but this other guy is going to provide 20% for me because you're just not enough for me. They can't handle that shit. They can't handle that. But it's the same thing as saying that to a man. I say to a woman, well, you can handle 80% of my sexual needs, but these other women are going to handle the other 20%. Like, hey, hang on, that's my job. So you want to tell me I'm not good enough at my job, but hire me for said job? So you want to undervalue me and just, no, it doesn't work like that. But that's, no one's really kind of communicated that to these level of men, that, it's not okay that you exercise your options. And then in addition, you're alpha widowing these women, you're pair bonding with these women, and then they're going to have a very difficult time pair bonding with someone else. And that's driving the lack of reproduction in society, because they can't pair bond and want to have kids with somebody else because they're still chasing their alpha. So all of those interactions, it made it possible for me to get really clear in myself. What do I need in my life? I need a man who commits. I need that. If that's some other woman says she doesn't need that, that's on her. But I can communicate now what I need, because I was faced with so many men doing things that are not what I need. So focusing on what you need in your heart as opposed to what you deserve outside of there, that really connects you back to your heart space. How much self-love, what are you attracting into your life, and really taking personal responsibility and accountability for the reality that each of us create for ourselves. Because if I would just blame them, then I'm just going to keep attracting that kind of man into my life, and no. So change that. Stop saying that I deserve or he or she deserves. I need, she needs, he needs, in healthy ways. I would say 2 more words that you can think about are when you talk about you meet someone new. Are you attached to them or are you connected to them? Because if the word attached just naturally comes out of your mouth, that is connecting through trauma, through self-hate, and not through self-love. Connection is a healthy soul connection. So when you talk about people that you meet or relationships that you have, try to use the word connection and see what that does to how you view the relationship. Because I could say, oh, I was connected, to this person or that person. Well, there was probably a lot of attachment there too in my past. So, but if I focus on how I connect, then I'm focused on my soul connecting in a healthy way with another being. If I start thinking, well, I'm attached, then that's focusing on self-hate and codependencies and attaching through self-hate and having a trauma bond as opposed to having a healthy soul heart-based connection. And the last bit of vocabulary that I'm going to encourage people to think about is, I heard this from my children a lot, and they've done a lot of therapy, is that they're doing well in spite of their childhood and not because of. And that in spite of, that's sinister, because that creates an individual inside of a family of relationships. Like, well, in spite of your bad mom, your bad dad, your siblings and grandparents, in spite of all those terrible people, you one person are good. That's the individual. And we're humans, we're communal, we're societal, we're all into this together. That denies that we all have souls that we're also communicating. It denies that our souls are orchestrating our lives for us, that only one person is good. And then how do you heal those relationships? Okay, well, I'm the good one, you're the bad one. Where's the healing there? There's no healing there. And then it doesn't acknowledge why the parents and the kids had that trauma. It doesn't acknowledge generational trauma. Like, why was my dad and my mom so messed up? Because their families were messed up. Why were their families messed up? Had messed up before. So this goes back generations. So having such a huge ego to think, well, in spite of all these terrible people, I'm the one individual that's good. No, we all got good. We all got bad. We're all in this together. So I encourage you to talk about, you're in your slot in life because of your childhood. Like, I was able to experience enlightenment because of all the emotional pain that I experienced in my childhood, because my parents went through a lot of emotional pain in their childhood and never healed, and so on and so forth, back through the ancestors and the generations. And so we say because of, we acknowledge the labor of our relatives and our ancestors to get us to this point. Like, I had an opportunity to heal my maternal line. Well, a lot of women had to go through a lot of pain so that I had this opportunity. So if I say in spite of, I'm not acknowledging all of their hard work and all the things that I took on in this lifetime to heal from all of that hard work that they went through and all that emotional pain that they went through, so that I have an opportunity to communicate it now and hopefully help stop population collapse. Like, wow. So we start with gratitude. It allows us to be grateful for the challenges that our relatives went through, and then they brought those challenges into my life. Like in my life, I've been sexually assaulted, and so when my daughters are in my womb, I think they took on some of that pain too, to help me process that pain, because we're in it together. We're a family, and their souls plan that so they can understand how their mom felt, so I can understand how they feel, so we understand each other. We have a commonality. It's a synchronicity, soul logic, synchronicity. So I really encourage you to change the framework about how you think about your past. It's because of. And mental health is all about perspective. Once you understand that whatever's going on in my heart, I project into reality, interact with that, and then that's how I change my heart, because everyone's just reflecting me back to me. And so I really encourage you to, keep thinking about it in that way. So here's our last lesson for today: how the vulnerable teach us lessons. Okay. The vulnerable, the women, children. Let's start there. And let's look at children. Children are born innocent, right? That innocence, that light, that is the mirror. So if you're yelling and screaming at your 1.5-year-old and they're crying, but then you blame them for it like my parents used to do, is that really the child's fault? Or is that child really a mirror showing you the emotional pain, the parents' emotional pain they need to work through? I mean, my children showed me so much of my emotional pain. I needed them to be in my life for me to see how much emotional pain I'm actually in. So our children are here to teach us. The women are here to teach us. It takes tremendous courage to be vulnerable and walk in the world. You know, like this last guy, he's 6'7" fire captain. I said, what am I going to do to that guy? I'm 5'5". What am I ever going to do that guy, like on a physical level? I have nothing on that guy. He could, you know, nothing. What do I have? I have my ability to communicate, and I have my vulnerability, you know, and that is where I would say my power is, but not to exercise it to manipulate, but to communicate from that perspective. I'm a woman, I'm laid off. A man's pursuing me for months, you know, and you know, why did that happen when his life, it looks like, is not available for a relationship, you know? So I'm the vulnerable one in that situation. Like, I didn't know, you know, and I'm a woman of honor. I don't flirt with men. I you know, I don't put myself around a lot of men, but this was my lesson, you know, to learn that I still have to be able to communicate my needs within this context. And this challenge was set up for me so I could communicate those needs, and that's why the other firefighter videos came out. So I would have an opportunity to speak my soul's purpose. So I'm not upset with him. He gave me an opportunity to reveal part of my soul's purpose, and so I'm very grateful for that. Is it challenging? Yes, it's very challenging. But I'm grateful for that opportunity to learn the lesson about the vulnerable are our biggest mirror. How you treat the vulnerable is the biggest mirror to yourself, to show yourself, do you have self-love in your heart, or do you have self-hate in your heart? And do you need to eradicate the sinister? So, you know, I encourage you to just think about how the vulnerable can teach you. And when you interact with the vulnerable, what do you see about yourself? It's not about them. If you want to go give to the homeless, how do you show up to give to the homeless? When they have a problem, do you sit and listen to them, or do you dismiss them because they're just the homeless? And what does it say about you? Okay. So I really encourage, you know, self-reflection around how you treat vulnerable people. Thank you for listening today about how to align with your biological imperative to eradicate the sinister from your heart. And just I'll keep trying here while we try to stop population collapse. Take care.